Well, good morning and welcome to the John Quintero Show. And we got a lot to cover today. And again, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook Live, and today, for the very, very first time, we're on X. And you can follow me on Facebook at John Quintero, on X at Coach Quintero 44. So we got three platforms, and we got a great leadoff hitter on this Friday morning. It's going to be a big weekend in the world of sports, and no better guy, longtime friend, broadcast partner a number of years ago, now doing a marvelous job with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Tim Neverett joins us for a few minutes on the John Quintero Show. And Timmy, good morning. How are you?
Great, Coach. Always good to be with you. And it's always a pleasure to be with the legend of San Diego. So
I appreciate that. It was great to be able to get you. I know you're calling a ball game tonight with Rick Monday. Going to be a huge night out of Camelback Ranch. Angels coming down the freeway to take on the Dodgers, and that's big news in itself, let alone Shohei Ohtani's going to make his debut in the Cactus League. So I would imagine that place is going to be crazy.
we're fortunate because a number of our games have already sold out. This is also our first night game of spring training. So more people, will be able to get there for a 6 p.m. start Mountain Time, 5 p.m. on the West Coast. It's going to be good to see Shohei out there. He'll be the DH, more than likely leading off. That's my guess. I haven't seen the lineup today, but I was told that he was going to go back in the leadoff spot. My guess is we'll see him have 2 or 3 at bats, probably 3. He's been taking a lot of live at bats on the backfields and throwing bullpens. And to watch this guy do both is incredible. With what he did last year, Coach, I've never seen anything like it in my life, especially that game on September 19th and that Thursday afternoon in Miami when he accomplished the unthinkable, reaching the 50-50 plateau in one. And he did it all in one game. We didn't think he'd do it, but he did it. 10 RBIs, 6 for 6, 3 home runs. It was an incredible afternoon. But, the thing for him is, he reached the pinnacle. He won in the playoffs. First of all, making it to the playoffs, because his 6 years with the Angels, he'd never sniffed the postseason. So his first time in the postseason, they win the World Series. He's the National League most valuable player, first guy since Frank Robinson to win it in both leagues. He is like no other player I've ever seen. You and I have seen a lot of players in our day, seen some really good ones, seen some great ones. I've never seen anything like this guy.
Talk about Freddie Freeman. He made his spring debut yesterday, and about a week or so ago, I thought he wasn't going to play at all in the Cactus League, but they got him in there yesterday, 1 for 3. How'd he look?
Good. I mean, he got a nice solid line drive. It was 105.4 miles per hour off the bat. That was his first hit in the first inning. He DH'd and batted second, and I think tomorrow, we'll see him in the lineup again, probably at first base. We could see him at DH again. But he had some good swings, and he joined us on our telecast yesterday after he was out of the ball game, and he said, "Look, I was out there being aggressive. I wanted to see the ball. I wanted to swing at the ball." His live BP on the backfields, he said felt really good. He feels healthy. He's done all the running he needs to do. The only thing that he hasn't done yet, and it's a first baseman who thinks about this stuff, right? He goes, the one thing I still have to do is I have to jump up and down and see if I can miss the base, like for a ball that's thrown high. So the detail work that's in his mind is different than most other people. Most people just see a ball up high, they read and react, right? But he practices it and he thinks about it, and then he wants to know how he's going to come down on his ankle. But his surgically repaired ankle 12 weeks ago, yesterday to the day, he says he feels really, really good. So we're looking forward to seeing him get back, and he'll be ready for opening day. He might have a light time in spring training, but he is doing a lot of work on the backfields that a lot of folks that come to the games don't ever see.
I got to ask you about your broadcast because, I religiously watch you and our relationship, but, I like to, know what's going on in the National League West, obviously being a big Padre guy down here. Rick Monday started out broadcasting with the Padres. You're doing games with him, and it seems like you guys are just two buddies sitting watching a ball game together. It's fantastic. And I had to crack up last week. You had totaled up, I think, the number of players in the first spring training game, and it came to be like 55 between the two teams. And Rick goes, "Yeah, the difference between spring training and the regular season, in spring training, you write to where you can't even really, write in your scorebook, and you can't make it out. And then when you get to the regular season, it's a lot bigger writing."
Yeah, he's always saying write small. And yesterday we were having one of those games. early, about the fourth inning, we started seeing guys come in. And I said, "Did you write small again today?" Because we use the same scorebooks that we use during the regular season. We don't have a lot extra space just for spring training. And I've often thought maybe I should have a different design just for spring training, but I don't want to do that. But yeah, working with him is a pleasure. And, for folks who remember him when he was broadcasting with the Padres, he's just a delight. I mean, he really is. And he is a wealth of knowledge and stories, and he thinks about a lot of things. Yesterday he brought something up that I hadn't considered yet. And he's always ahead in his thinking. And it was interesting because, we've been experimenting with the ABS system, the challenge system. And we saw yesterday in our game with the Rockies a number of challenges by the catchers, which we hadn't seen many. We've seen pitchers, we've seen hitters, occasionally a catcher, but we saw a lot by the catcher yesterday. And he brought up the fact that he said, I wonder how this affects catchers' framing stats. Like the catchers always talk about framing pitches. Umpires can't stand the conversation. They'll roll their eyes at you when you start talking about framing. But catchers are all about framing, they're just having a soft hand and a subtle wrist or whatever, stealing a strike here and there. But now if you can just challenge that one on the outside corner, why bother framing? So he brought that up yesterday, and I'm sure analytics folks all around baseball were going, no, don't say that. But he does. He is baseball's thinking man, and he comes up with some great stuff. He's very funny. He's got great stories from the past, and he relates them to the current times. So I'm really lucky to work with him. But I've worked with him enough now on both TV and radio, where there are times when you work with a partner long enough, you already know a lot of the stories. But on TV, you might act like you don't know it yet, and you just sort of tee them up and let them take off. For example, I brought up something about we were talking about Tom Seaver, and I said, "Yeah, he lied to you one time right in front of your mother, didn't he?" And so he went about the whole story about Tom said, "I'm going to throw you a fastball down the middle in the All-Star game, your first pitch, so take your best shot." And the first pitch, he flipped in a curveball. and Rick lined out, and all the way down to first base, he was telling Tom what he thought of him. So, for lying to his mother. But so we get a lot of funny stories about when he played for the Kansas City A's, and Joe DiMaggio was his outfield coach. I mean, he's got tons of stories. Yesterday, we're bringing up stories about his first All-Star game when he walked in the American League clubhouse, and the first guy he saw was Mickey Mantle, and Mickey said, "Hi, Rick," and Rick said, "He knows my name." Like he was starstruck because Mickey Mantle said hi. These stories are priceless, and he's got tons and tons of them, and we weave them into the broadcast. And spring training, it's we have some time to do that, but also in spring training, one thing I think that's really important is that when the regulars come out of the ball game, you don't ignore the guys that come in and who are going to be in the minor leagues. You have to have information on who they are, where they're from, what they've done, maybe get a story. And he leaves that to me. I go around the clubhouse and talk to these guys and get a story or two. But for the most part, he really knows the game. He's wonderful to be around on and off the air. We spend a lot of time together eating dinner. We talk in the off season. We call each other up. Send each other baseball related texts and things like that. It's a good relationship, and I'm glad that it comes through. I'm glad that you can pick it up, and other people have said similar things, so I take that as a high compliment.
Let's talk about Dave Roberts. Dave Roberts, I've always said, could go 162-0, win the World Series, and fans would still be upset because they didn't win games by enough for runs. But let's talk a little bit about Dave. I know there's talk about him getting a new contract. I don't know if that'll be before opening day or before they go to Tokyo, but talk a little bit about what you've seen in him and his growth as a manager, and also talk about how he's attacked this camp this year, because it's really kind of a strange camp with the team having to break up, go to Tokyo. They're going to play a couple of exhibition games, and the 2 games against the Cubs, come back, have the freeway series, and then get ready for the opener at home.
The advantage is they did it last year when they played in Seoul, South Korea against the Padres. So I think they have an advantage over the Cubs in that regard in terms of going through it just 12 months ago. And I think that's a good thing. Next year, they won't do that because next year is a World Baseball Classic year, so nobody will be traveling internationally that early. We'll have the WBC instead. However, with Dave, his approach to camp this year has been very good. And you know what? Because he has veteran players like Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman and so on and so forth, those guys have really taken on a responsibility of talking to every player. And in team meetings, they have said, look, we won it. It was great. That's over. We have to start again. And to a man, every single player I've been around that clubhouse talking to, it's like they never won it, right? They're like, hey, that was last year. It was great. We won it, but this is this year. We have to win this year. They're taking the approach like they have to win because they know the bullseye's on their back. They know they're getting their best shot every night from everybody. And so they're not like a lot of teams might come back and they'll go like, yeah, we're the world champs and everything else. And they, I mean, the Rangers, take the Rangers. No disrespect to the Rangers. They win the World Series. They don't make the postseason the next year. All right. The Dodgers are not thinking about not making the postseason. They're thinking about winning the World Series again. And that's the mindset I think you have to have. And that's a winning mindset they've got around that clubhouse. And they have guys that are just bred to win. I mean, Mookie Betts, if he plays you in pickleball, he doesn't want to beat you. He wants to destroy you. And if he doesn't win by enough, he'll go on YouTube, watch videos to figure ways to get better. He'll get a coach. He'll find a way to kill you the next time. So that's his mentality. I mean, he went out and worked. He knew he was going to be at shortstop this year, so he worked all winter. I mean, he could have sat back and said, hey, man, I just won my third World Series. No, he went to work. And he hired Troy Tulowitzki, right, who's an assistant at Texas now, Texas Longhorns. He went out and hired Troy Tulowitzki and had Tulowitzki work with him on throwing from shortstop, on fielding balls on the move, on doing different things that Mookie hadn't been able to do as a shortstop before. So this is and he watched videos on all the great shortstops that he was interested in watching, trying to pick up little things. And he's played more in spring already than he did at this time the last few years. He wants to play almost every day. And he played yesterday. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays tonight. I don't know what the lineup is tonight, but he wants to be in there all the time, taking ground balls and getting into game scenarios. But I mean, he went out and got one of the strongest arm shortstops in recent memory to work with him one-on-one. This is Mookie Betts we're talking about, right? One of the faces of baseball, and he's not satisfied with his game. So what does that show the rest of the guys in that clubhouse?
Mookie Betts really well because you were with them broadcasting the Red Sox before you came to the Dodgers a few years back. I guess my question, and I guess I should ask Dave Roberts this next time I see him, why has there been this push to have Mookie Betts, where he's at in his career, become a shortstop?
It's because he can. I mean, this guy's a 6-time Gold Glover in right field, right? You'd think if it's not broken, don't fix it. But he's good enough to be an everyday shortstop. And the one thing that people may not know about Mookie is that when he came up with the Red Sox, he was an infielder. Okay, he played second base and short. He was really starting to hit the ball in A-ball. Like he really started to hit. And then he didn't really hit for power until he got to AAA. AA, he started to hit a few home runs, started to learn how to hit a little bit. So they figured, okay, we don't like how he's playing in the infield. They didn't like his arm or whatever. So they put him in the outfield, right field. If you didn't like his arm, why'd you put him there? But they had to find a place to put him because he was just hitting everything. It turned out that he was a 6-time Gold Glover. He's going to be a multi-time MVP when it's all said and done. He'll be a Hall of Famer. But he's doing something that's highly unusual, and that's for a guy who's as established as he is in the outfield to come in and play what is arguably the most difficult position to play in the infield, and that's shortstop. He loves being on the infield. He loves being in the middle of it. He can handle it, and I think he'll be fine there. I really do. I don't know if he's going to be the greatest shortstop of all time. I wouldn't say that, but I think he'll be good enough where people, because of his bat and what he does scoring runs and everything else, I think people will say that he's a really good shortstop when they see him play a lot. I also used to watch him at like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, take ground balls at third base and short, like almost every day at Fenway Park. When we'd be on the road, he would be doing it as well. And I asked him about it one time, like this was a long time ago. And he said, I just like to stay engaged. I like to use different muscle memory. It's athletic for me. It's like a workout. But he was taking ground balls, even when he was, racking up Gold Gloves in right field. He would take ground balls on a regular basis at short.
Amazing guy. There's no question about it. Not a big guy either. And, 5'9", the power he's able to generate is amazing. Hey, I want to go back to Dave Roberts for a minute. And What have you seen in the time that you've been broadcasting the Dodgers? Have you seen any changes in Dave, how he manages?
I think that not really, not necessarily. The one thing is, the longer he's been here, the more he's he is a player's manager. The players love him. They respect him. And you've seen baseball. You know what baseball's about. Sometimes managers overstay a welcome, right? Sometimes they're there long enough and the guys just they tune them out. I mean, it's happened in San Diego
Yep.
a few times over the last couple of years, right? A few years. You've seen it up close and personal there. It hasn't happened with Dave. He is a great communicator. And I think that's why he probably got the job, because when he interviewed, he wowed them in the interview. And that's why he got hired. Um, I think when he went into the interview process, I can't speak for anybody involved, but from what I understand, he was just another guy they were going to interview. But once they talked to him, he was head and shoulders above everybody else in terms of the qualifications they were looking for. He is absolutely exceptional with the media, and that's something you need in Los Angeles. He's really, really good. He treats people great. He's great at the public relations and the community relations and all the other things outside of baseball that a manager is expected to have and be a part of. And you look at his win-loss record now. Okay, this is 10 years. This is his 10th year managing the Dodgers. He's on a Hall of Fame track. And I'm not saying that because I work with him. Just look at the numbers. Okay, he's been to three. He's taken the team to 3 World Series. He's won 2 of them. Been to the postseason every year. Granted, he's a carpenter that's had a lot of good tools to work with. Okay, but it's baseball. You still have to win. And when the Padres knocked him out a couple years ago, that really stung. That really hurt. It hurt a lot of the players. It hurt Dave deep. And not just because it was the Padres, but because it was the fact that they had lost in that round. When they lost in 2019, when they lost to the Nationals, and the Nationals went on to win the whole thing, that really hurt. So they've had a couple of close calls where they probably should have gone farther. But Dave has always been resilient. He's always found ways to keep things extremely positive. Every day is a good day. And the players have really responded. The thing is, now he's got a guy like Ohtani. How do you manage a guy like Ohtani? Okay. Shohei, you just went 50-50. What do you need to do? You tell me. What do you need to do? So, I mean, he trusts his guys. Same with Betts. This shortstop decision was not a team decision. Said, Mookie, we don't care what you think. No, Mookie was heavily involved in it. He wanted to be in there. But it's like he trusts these veterans. He trusts the players to know themselves and know what they're capable of doing. And as a result, the players have responded in a positive way, and it's really worked out.
Well, you know how you manage Otani? You tell him the game time and ask him if he needs a ride to the ballpark.
Yeah. What time you want the limo to pick you up?
Exactly.
Exactly
Hey,
right.
let's talk a little bit about Roki Sasaki. What have you seen of him so far? Because he's supposed to be pitching in Japan.
Yeah, I watched him pitch a live BP. He had 2 ups, and I watched him pitch against some White Sox minor league hitters that came over. They had what they were calling like a modified sim game for him, or whatever name you want to call it. Basically, he pitched to some other teams' minor league hitters. He looked okay. I mean, the thing about him is that when he gets going and he's ready, he possesses a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. He possesses a slider that goes against it that's really, really good. Comes from the same arm slot, comes from the same release point, and that's really tough to pick up. You have to be able to pick up that speed and spin, but because he throws high 90s to 100, he's actually been clocked as high as 102 in Japan. We haven't seen that yet. I don't know if we'll see it or when. But the real pitch that he's got that's devastating is his splitter. It's Coach, it's gross. I mean, it's really, really effective. It's just the timing of when you use it and how much you've got on it. So now the Dodgers have splitters that are really good from Ohtani, from Yamamoto, from Sasaki, and don't forget Tony Gonsolin has a really, really good splitter, and he's back this year. But Sasaki is baseball's #1 prospect right now. He's 23 years old. The first time I saw him in person, when I got to camp, he's a lot bigger than I thought he was. He towers over Yamamoto. I didn't think that was the case. And then now, so then I was like, okay, I got to see this guy throw. And so I watched him throw, and he's impressive. He's going to have his bumps making this transition. Again, he's 23. He's young. He's going to have to adjust to Major League Baseball. And, hey, no pressure. You're just going to go home to the Tokyo Dome where tickets are like the cost of tickets there is out of control. It's sold out. Everybody in the country knows your name. And they're there to watch you pitch against the Chicago Cubs in game 2 of the regular season. No pressure. Just go out and win. So, his first start with the Dodgers is certainly going to be memorable.
When you look at this Dodger ball club and everybody saying this is as perfect a team as you could possibly have, and we know that there's no perfect teams in any sport. They're great teams, there's dynasty type teams, but every team has a flaw here and there. I look at the Dodgers, and even though they've got like 8 or 9 pitchers, when once Kershaw comes back middle of the year and Ohtani's back in the fold, they've got all these guys that can run out there. But there's 4 or 5 of these guys that have had some injury problems the last year that are trying to come back, and you can't expect all these guys to make it through 162 games.
And that's why the Dodgers went out and got as much pitching as they did, because somehow with duct tape and a paper clip or something, they went out there and pieced together enough of a staff to beat the Yankees in 5 games. To beat the Mets, to beat the Padres. I mean, they had to piecemeal their way through. I mean, look who finished up the World Series Game 5. It was Walker Buehler, a starter. They really had to figure out a way to get it done, and they did not want to get caught short again. So now you look at the staff. They've got a really good staff as it is without Ohtani, without Kershaw. Now, when those 2 guys come back, that's going to be really interesting. Ohtani probably sometime in May, maybe toward the end of May, and then Kershaw will be later in the summer. And everybody's got their eyes on Kershaw because he needs 32 more strikeouts to get to 3,000. And that's going to be a big legacy for him. He'll be a one-team player with 3,000 strikeouts, and that's a one-way ticket to Cooperstown. So, Dustin May coming back. He starts tonight, by the way. Dustin May is a factor. He's out of minor league options right now, so he's got to make this club. And he looked really good in his first outing. He looked really, really good. So I'm looking forward to seeing him go tonight, maybe 3 innings, 45 pitches, something like that. I mean, we can go up and down the list. And then there's the bullpen. Okay. Tanner Scott, you know what Tanner Scott can do. So he pitched yesterday. He got hit a little bit, but he's still zeroing things in. He's tough. You got him. You got Kirby Yates, who's new. I mean, Evan Phillips, who's been dynamite. He's a little bit behind. Michael Kopech's a little bit behind, but when they catch up, a little bit after opening day. You add them in there with Alex Vesia, who quietly was one of the best left-handed relievers in baseball. Same with Anthony Banda. I mean, the bullpen is going to be ferocious. Blake Trinan, I forgot about him. He pitched yesterday too. I mean, it goes on and on. I didn't even get to Bruce Dark-Gratterall yet. But they have a lot of arms to choose from, and that is going to be how they win games. Obviously, scoring more runs. They've got guys who can put runs on the board. There's no doubt. 1 through 9, they can hit. So, we're going to find out what the weakness is, but right now they've seemed to plug a lot of the gaps if there were any.
Hey, but before I let you go, I got a couple other things. Number one, when you take a look at the division right now, and I'm looking at it, and I know everybody's talking about the Cubs over in the Central, and the Braves and the Mets. We know how good they are. I'm thinking out of the National League West, there could be 3 teams this year getting into the playoffs: Dodgers, Diamondbacks, and Padres.
Yeah, I think the Diamondbacks are a team not to overlook. I think they're going to be pretty good. They've got some good pitching. They added a pretty high-profile free agent starter, so that's all right. They're going to be good. I think they'll be pretty good. The Padres, they've changed up some bodies here and there, but I still think the core players are really, really good. The one guy I have a love-hate relationship with watching him play. That's Jackson Merrill. I hate it when he does good things against the Dodgers, but I love watching that kid play baseball. He's really good. That kid is really good. I thought, I honestly thought he should have been Rookie of the Year. But I mean, how many game-winning hits did he have? Right?
Hell, in that 1 month he had about 6.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking we were playing against Milwaukee the other day, and Jorge Alfaro came up for the Brewers. He was batting 9th and being the DH, and I mentioned on the air, I said this guy had 5 game-winning hits And I think four of them were against the Dodgers. But anyway, but Jackson Merrill, I think is outstanding. I think he's a really good player. You know what you have with Manny, you know what you have with Fernando Tatis. I mean, I think that the Padres have a great team. They really do. And what's been great the last few years um, has been the back and forth between every time these teams play now. It's exciting. It didn't always, it didn't
It's kind of
always,
old school baseball.
yeah, it wasn't always that way, coach. You know that. But now it is, and it's good, and it's back and forth, and it means something, and it's a lot of fun. And baseball should be fun. It should be highly competitive. And I love when the Dodgers and Padres play. I think it's wonderful. What's happened, how the fans have responded. It's really really good. Of course, San Diego's got one of the greatest ballparks. I love going down there. I love that park. I love the downtown area, Gaslamp. Seaport Village, all that. I love being around there. That's why San Diego's always been one of my favorite stops on the Major League Tour. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on with you, but you've known that. I've told you that.
Right.
But I think that the Dodgers and Padres uh, relationship now is very interesting to watch in baseball. It's a lot of fun.
Hey, as I let you get out of here, and appreciate the time. I know you got to call the game tonight, and before you go, I want you to tell fans how they can watch the game tonight. But Tim Neverett, I know you very well, and I know the way you go about preparation. You're like me. We prepare for forever and ever and ever, and you still got that great passion of whether you're calling a basketball game or a hockey game or going to a spring training game. What do you do anything for fun really during spring training, or you just go back to your apartment and grind and get ready for the next day? Because I know the way you work.
Well, spring training is a little different because you play a different team every day. So in the regular season, you play the same team 3 days or 4 days in a row. So you can sit back and breathe for a little bit. But I got let's see, I got my scorebook here. I was just getting ready to dig into. I got what else do I have in here? I got my and here's my prospect guide. I got all the prospects for the Angels in here tonight.
Beautiful.
I got all my notes. I've put all my preseason notes in a booklet. I got all this stuff. So yeah, it's a lot of reading. I mean, basically, spring training is reading and talking season. So you get a chance to see the team's prospects. You get a chance to talk to everybody around the other ball clubs. Like I visited with Jesse Agler and Tony Gwynn the other day, which I always love doing. I always love seeing those guys. Of course, Donnie and Mudd are two of my favorites too. And we always share information and things that'll help each other out in the broadcast, which is always important to do. But yeah, you have to be up on it because if you're not, people who watch the games or listen to the games, they're going to know in about 5 seconds you don't know what you're talking about. So you have to be up on everybody and everything. And we call them nuggets in the business. We're looking for nuggets of information. So I'm always looking for nuggets that aren't in the newspaper. They're not on the in the blogs or on the website. Something that I try to tell somebody something every day on a telecast or a radio broadcast that they didn't know, that they've never heard before. And that's my goal every day, is to try to find something new that somebody hasn't talked about or somebody didn't know. So part of broadcasting is I call it R&D, research and development, right?
Good call.
So
Hey, how can we watch the game tonight?
tonight you can see it everywhere. Tonight, if you're in Orange County and above, I guess it's on Sportsnet LA, the Dodgers regular channel. It'll be live at 5 o'clock Pacific. And you can always get it on MLB.TV or the MLB at Bat app. But tonight it's also national, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on MLB Network. So it'll be all around the country tonight when Ohtani and also Will Smith, the catcher, makes his spring debut tonight.
Well, that's great, Timmy. Now that I got you warmed up, have a great rest of the day and have a great call tonight. I'll be tuning in.
Thanks. I wish we had a day game now.
Take care, Timmy.
All right, Coach. Good to talk to you.
Oh, great guy right there, man. Fantastic. I got to tell you a story, and then we're going to get into our Padres a little bit. And Tim does have a lot of love for the Padres, and he talked about Jackson Merrill. But many years ago, I think it was 2008, in fact. I think it was 2008. In fact, I know it was because I was doing USD Basketball at the time. And Joe Tatino and I had gone to spring training, or we're going to go to spring training. But before that, we had to go over and cover a fight in Las Vegas. It was Manuel Marquez against, I'm trying to remember who it was, Manny Pacquiao. So we go over and we do a show on Friday, and we're going to go to the fight on Saturday night. And then I'm going to fly to spring training on Sunday and cover the Padres, and then head down to Tampa to call the USD NCAA games. They beat UConn. But anyways, we get over there on Friday. We do our show, and we had Bert Sugar on, and we had Jim Lampley. You know, we had a bunch of the guys that called boxing on HBO. So I told Joe the Mountain West Conference basketball tournament was going on. And I go, Joe, I want to go out to Thomas and Mack. San Diego State's playing BYU, and then there's another game. It's Utah against UNLV. So I get a cab. Joe didn't want to go. He wanted to stay and rest up to go to the fight the next night. So I take a $20 cab ride out to Thomas and Mack. And I'm wearing a pair of shorts, and I'm wearing a pullover similar to what I got on right now. And San Diego State didn't have a good night. In 2000, they got beat, and they got beat pretty good by BYU. So the second game is Utah and UNLV. In halftime in the San Diego State game, I'm sitting up in the stands, and Tim was involved with the broadcasting the Mountain West Conference tournament on both radio and TV. He sees me, he comes up in the stands, he goes, "Hey, I need you to call the next game." I go, "You got to be kidding me." He goes, "No, we had one of our guys get sick, and we got to take our radio analyst and put him on TV, and I really need you." Timmy, you got to be kidding me. He goes, "No, coach." He goes, "I really need you to call the next game." And I felt kind of weird because normally when I broadcast, I dress up, especially for a basketball tournament, a conference. I'd be in a nice suit and and all that great stuff. So I go, "Okay, I'll do it." So I walk into where all the media notes were, and luckily I had had UNLV early in the year, and I knew quite a bit about Utah. So I go in and get my game notes. And I come back, and I was working with a guy who was director of ESPN's Las Vegas station. He was the program director. He was going to call the play-by-play. Well, I'll make a long story short on this. I call the game. UNLV wins. Next thing you know, I'm interviewing Lon Kruger. I'm standing there interviewing Lon Kruger, and then Curtis Terry, their star player of the game, I'm interviewing him. And Timmy had said to me, he goes, "I don't have a lot of money for this." I go, "Well, yeah, you do. You're going to drive me back to the hotel. You're going to save me $20. And that was one of many stories I got with Tim Neverett and I. Tim and I used to call the American Basketball League together. We were in charge of calling the game of the week in the ABL, a pro basketball league that San Diego had a franchise. And that's how I got to know Tim. And we've been friends for many, many years, and he's doing a great job on the broadcast. And he just loves sports. He's like me. He loves sports. And it was very nice to have him on today. Okay, we're going to get into our Padres. We got a lot to cover. Tonight, Padres play Seattle. They're going to throw a 22-year-old right-hander, Braden Nett, 22 years of age, played single A last year. Going to get him some work. But really, what's going on here? The Padres, and like Tim was mentioning, a lot of the Dodger guys are working on the backfields. This backfield stuff is becoming very prominent to where guys can work on things in a non-pressure environment during spring training. But give you an update on some of the Padre pitchers right now. Michael King, who battled flu the first few days, camp, kind of been slowed a little bit. He's going to actually throw a live BP today. Dylan Cease, ready for his first Cactus League start tomorrow at Goodyear against Cincinnati. And Yu Darvish going to start a B game tomorrow against the White Sox. Minor leaguers. So they're the 1, 2, 3 guys of the Padres all going to get some work the next couple of days. Now, here's the big news. Fernando is expected to play tonight. He's expected to play. I'm hoping he plays. Great article in the Union Tribune this morning said he's never felt better. He hasn't felt this good since 2020. So that bodes well. Said he's dialed in with his swing. Not too often do players come out and say, "Hey, they're dialed into their swing." And I'm going, "Oh, man, this is great. Could he hit 50 homers this year?" And I know I got to put the brakes on that a little bit. But he had that season where he led the National League, he had 42 dingers. I mean, if he played 145 games, and I know, I'm getting excited again with Fernando. But this guy is a five-tool guy. This guy could be the best player in baseball. He could be the best player in baseball if he ever stayed healthy. He's got the tools to be the best player on the planet, but he's got to stay healthy. Kind of like Ronald Acuna Jr. there with the Atlanta Braves. Great player, can't stay healthy. Had 2 really significant knee injuries, an ankle problem. But Fernando said he's dialed in, and I'm feeling good. And I can't wait to see him play tonight. I'm looking forward to watching that game. I believe is going to be on Padres TV. I'm going to dial into that one big time. Yesterday, Padres got beat by the Athletics 6-4. The Padres are 3-4 right now in spring training. Not a big deal. Hell, the Dodgers are like 2-6. I should have asked. I should have asked Tim Neverett. Hey, Dave Roberts had a clubhouse meeting because they're 2-6 right now. You just got to get your work in. And as you get deeper into spring training, then you're going to start looking at things a little bit closer. Right now, guys are just trying to get their feet wet, get comfortable. But the Padres yesterday, Tom Cosgrove, who 2 years ago was unbelievable, it was almost unhittable. Last year had a rough go, ended up in the minor leagues. Yesterday came in a third of an inning, 3 hits, 4 runs, all earned, and a walk. And then Ron Nacio came in, and he was touched up 2/3 of an inning, a hit, a run, a hit batter, did have a strikeout. But Athletics came up with a 5-run bottom of the 8th, won the ball game 6-4. I didn't lose any sleep over that one. But hey, Padres are, as long as they stay healthy, that's all I really care about. Stay healthy. If you stay healthy, you're going to be okay. And as Tim mentioned tonight, Angels, Dodgers going at it at Camelback Ranch. That'll be at 5:05. Spring debut of Shohei Ohtani. And as Tim said, Will Smith going to make his season debut for the Dodgers. And Dodgers yesterday shut out 2-0. Freddie Freeman 1 for 3 coming off that ankle surgery. Angels right now are 3-2-1 in spring training. Yesterday, they tied the White Sox over at Sloan Park 4-4. Tim Anderson trying to regain his stroke. It signed with the Angels. He had a homer. Kyron Paris had a home run. I heard a stat yesterday. Angels have not had a winning season in 9 years. And I know we're not going to talk a lot about the Angels, but the Angels, 9 years in a row without winning more than you've lost, that's a problem. And they've gone through general managers, they've gone through managers, they've gone through players galore. This year, they signed a bunch of veteran guys, see what's left of some of those guys, see if they can put a winning product on the field. But man, that's bad. 9 years in a row. And they've spent a lot of money. They've spent a lot of money. And Artie Moreno came out a couple of weeks ago and said that he's going to lose $50 million this year. Not good. Not good. Okay, I do want to get to some of our questions today. And if you're out there and want to dial up, and again, I'm really excited today. We're on YouTube like we normally are. We're on Facebook at John Quintero, and we're on X. We're on X going live. And that is Coach Quintero 484. RJM, love Tim Neverett and Rick Monday. Tell you what, Rick Monday told me a great story one time. We were eating dinner. Tim mentioned that, a bunch of Charlie Steiner and all the guys, they eat dinner together every night. And I was lucky enough to be at a table one night with Rick Monday and Charlie and, a bunch of the broadcasters. And Rick Monday told this story when he was in high school, how Tommy Lasorda wanted to sign him coming out of high school. And he ended up going to Arizona State. And then he got, ended up being the very, very first player ever taken in the Major League Draft, Rick Monday. And Rick Monday's mom didn't want him to sign. And he went to Arizona State and played for Bobby Winkles. In fact, when Bobby Winkles passed away here a couple of years ago, I had Rick Monday on my radio show. And he had nothing but great things to say about Bobby Winkles and his time at Arizona State. RJM, I agree. I love Tim Neverett. I think he calls a heck of a game. Rick Monday's fantastic, great stories. And, the other day on their broadcast, they were talking about Jerry Coleman. They were talking about Bob Chandler, who we had on a week ago. They were talking about Uncle Teddy. It was great. I mean, Rick Monday was telling all kinds of stories about Jerry Coleman and how hard Ted's worked over the years. It was really cool. I mean, right in the middle of a Dodger broadcast, they're talking about Padre broadcasters. I thought that was fantastic. Okay, let's get to Coach's Mailbag here a little bit and see what we got today. And again, if we're live, hey, send in your questions. Love to hear it. Honesty. Love the show, Coach. The Padres organization tend to put players in failing positions by not preparing some players for future plans. Merrill is an example to outfield. Well, you know what? It just shows. You know what? When you are drafting, you want to draft shortstops, center fielders, because they're athletic. And, when I was in college baseball, when I was recruiting, I never recruited a high school second baseman. I wanted to go get a couple of good shortstops, get them, and then let them compete. The guy who couldn't make the throw from shortstop at the college level ended up being a second baseman because I was getting a better brand of athlete normally. I mean, there's always the exception. There may be some kid in high school just an amazing second baseman, but doesn't have the arm strength to play shortstop. But always look for shortstops and center fielders. And you've seen a lot of guys, honestly, over the years that have gone from center to short or from short to center. Now, Tommy Edman's a great example. And we're going to get Tom. I've talked to Tommy. It's just working in spring training and going to Tokyo. And we're going to get Tommy Edman on for a podcast. I'm a big fan of him. I'm a big fan of his dad, John, who's the head baseball coach at La Jolla Country Day. His mother's a beautiful lady, just a great family, the Edmans. Whether he wears a Dodger uniform or not, I don't care. He's a San Diego ball player. And we're going to have Tommy on. And I used to have Tommy when he was with the Cardinals on my radio show from time to time, always a real congenial guy. But Tommy's a great example. He's won a Gold Gloves as a second baseman. Now he's played short and going to be the starting center fielder for the Dodgers this year. Hey, you got to go with what you got. And, Fernando, Fernando was fun to watch, a shortstop, but he was also erratic. And as much as I would like to see Fernando play shortstop, I got to keep this guy healthy. And I think the best way to keep him healthy is play in the outfield. Yeah, you got to run a little bit, and there's always a possibility of a collision or running into the wall. But I'll take my chances with him in the outfield a little bit more than I would at shortstop. But honestly, I appreciate that question a great deal. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to get to college basketball. And tomorrow night, if you haven't seen UC San Diego, and I'm not doing this because I do the games, you could sit at home and listen to me and Steve quiz tomorrow night on ESPN Plus, if you'd like. This team is damn good, and they're a smart team. If you like old school basketball, and I don't want that to sound like these guys aren't athletic, because they are athletic, but they're smart. They've got an incredible basketball IQ. Last night they went on the road in CSUN, Cal State University Northridge. Good team. They got 20 wins. They're not a cupcake, as Dick Vitale would say. They weren't a cupcake. The Tritons had beaten them by 25 earlier in the year. Then CSUN won 7 straight until last night. It was a hell of a game. And CSUN gave the Tritons all they could handle, but the Tritons found a way to get it done on the road, 77-71. Their 10th straight win. Snapped the 7-game winning streak for CSUN. CSUN's good. Coach Newman up there does a really, really nice job. Irvine won last night. They remain 1 game back of UC San Diego with 3 conference games left. But tomorrow night, UC San Diego, they play at home, 7 o'clock against Cal State Fullerton. And then next Thursday, which will be senior night, they got Long Beach State. And then they will close it out on national TV on March 8th. It'll be a night game. They moved it from 2 o'clock. It's going to become a nationally televised game on ESPN2 against UC Davis. They win 3 in a row. They're the conference titler. They win the Big West Conference, but they still have to win the Big West tournament over in Henderson, Nevada to get the automatic berth. But they're putting themselves in really good shape. Maybe even if they didn't win, they may get an at-large berth. I mean, they're that good. They were number 2 in the country this week in mid-major poll. Number 2 in the country, UC San Diego. Who would have ever thought that? Steve Quiz and I were walking to our car last Saturday night after they boat raced Hawaii by 39 points. And I said to Steve, did you ever think that you and I would be looking at the net rankings and the Ken Palm rankings for UC San Diego? And they're ahead of San Diego State in those rankings. So Eric Olin and his squad just doing an incredible job. 25-4 right now. And, only 2 losses in conference. Now the Aztecs, they got a tough one tomorrow. Wyoming gave them a lot of problems in their meeting here at Viejas Arena. Aztecs ended up winning by a bucket. They won by 2 points last time. They play tomorrow at the Arena Auditorium. They call it the Dome of Doom. And they got the Wyoming Cowboys, a team they should beat, but you never know. But the other night, what a great performance by the Aztecs against New Mexico. No Magoon Guath. He won't be in there again tomorrow with a hyperextended knee. Don't know when he's going to come back. But the Aztecs 19-7 right now, 12-5 in Mountain West Conference play. You look at the standings. New Mexico, they got beat the other night by the Aztecs, 14-3 now in conference. Utah State 14-4, Colorado State 13-4, and then the Aztecs and Boise State at 12-5. The Aztecs are still in it, but some things that have to happen. But I do think as long as they could run the table the rest of the way in the conference, and then even if they didn't win the Mountain West Conference tournament, if they got to the semis or at least the finals, if they got to the finals or the semifinal, I think they'd get an at-large berth because of their reputation, and they got a good team. They're young, they're inexperienced. Yesterday, the good news: Miles Bird talked about next year. Somebody asked him a question. He goes, "Hey, look," he goes, "if I play college basketball next year, I'm not entering the portal. I'm staying at San Diego State, but I may look at turning pro." Well, I'm going to tell Miles Bird right now. I think he's a young man that's got an immense amount of talent. But trying to go into the NBA, probably a second-round draft pick at best. Okay, he's got a lot of work to do. And there's games this year that he's disappeared in. And I know he's been battling a couple of minor injuries, but he got a lot to work on. It would behoove him to come back. I got to believe he's coming back. I mean, could he play pro ball next year? Yeah, he could play pro ball, probably in Turkey or Istanbul or Russia or Italy, somewhere like that, or he could play maybe in the G League. Do you really want to play the G League when you could play another year at San Diego State? So you got a lot of work to do. I mean, you can't disappear in games. And I still think he's got to rework that shot a little bit for the NBA. That's me. But tomorrow they're going to be in Laramie, Wyoming. Who knows what the weather will be like? I remember one time coming out doing a game. I did it on Cox Channel 4 with Chris Marlowe, and then I had to do my radio show from courtside. And Dave Marcus, who engineers the Padre games, Dave and I went out, and we couldn't find our rental car because it snowed. And we're at 11 o'clock at night. We're trying to knock snow off cars, trying to figure out where our rental car was. And those were a few years back before you could hit a button and it'd pop your doors open, the lights would go on. So that was kind of tough. USD, they already fired Cindy Fisher on the ladies' side earlier this week. I don't know what Steve Lavin's plan is. I don't know what the university's plan is. They're 4-26. They got beat last night. They've won one conference game. They got beat last night up at Beasley Coliseum in Pullman, 93-86 by Washington State. 4-26. They haven't won a game since the end of December. I don't know what to tell you on that. I don't know. I think it's more than just a Steve Lavin problem. I think it's a university problem. They got to figure out how they're going to get their basketball programs up to speed, because right now they're in a ditch and they can't climb out of this ditch. NIL obviously not helping them. I don't know if the restrictions academically are causing them any problems or not. But man, 4-26, that's a tough one. That's tough to deal with. All right, we gave you a lot. Hope you enjoyed Tim Neverett. Great guy. I really appreciate all of his time this morning. He's got to call a ball game tonight. We'll be back in on Monday morning, and very much looking forward to being with you. I was thinking about it as I was getting ready this morning. I can't wait for the regular season to get started, where we're talking Padre baseball morning, noon, and night. One other thing, just a reminder, tomorrow night you got San Diego FC, their home opener. After that thrilling 2-0 victory up at LA last week against the defending MLS champion LA Galaxy. 7:30 tomorrow night, Snapdragon Stadium. They play St. Louis City SC. They'll be a very worthy opponent. First 30,000 get commemorative scarves from walking in the turnstiles tomorrow night. So and we'll recap that on Monday a little bit. But again, if you would, if you're watching, please subscribe to the program. It doesn't cost a dime. Doesn't cost a dime. And like the program. I want your comments, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, or now on X. And again, we got 3 platforms on YouTube, Facebook at John Quintero, and on X at Coach Quintero 44. A lot of great sports starting tonight, tomorrow, Sunday. We're going to have a lot to talk about Monday morning at 10 o'clock. Until then, Coach John Quintero, be safe out there. Have a great time. And we'll talk to you Monday morning. Bye-bye.